Okay, following my lesson in careless algebra, let's see if I can get this right. Okay, so I've done the first couple of steps here. It's straightforward substitution. We get this, which we had before. In other words, your delta x is this. Okay, and then V naught is VI minus TI times VF minus VI over TF minus TI. So we plug that in here. Now I had that before, but I was intent on remembering this, and actually I just kind of reconstructed it in my mind because I didn't have the board visible at the time. And as a result, I forgot to write down my delta T, and that led to all kinds of problems. I ended up with a VI as a isolated term on the right-hand side and a delta X on the left-hand side, and VI is not dimensionally equivalent to delta X. It's got dimensions of velocity, and this has dimensions of position. They don't have the same dimensions, so they can't appear as terms in the same equation. Now, VI delta T can occur just fine, because that is a change in position, or at least has the units of change in position, so it's compatible. Okay, well, having written the delta T here, now we easily see that you multiply distributive law VI delta T here. TF minus TI is what we mean by delta T, so when we multiply this term by this, this just divides into this, and we end up with TI times VF minus VI. Now, this is a very minor miracle, because it's really obvious if you're paying attention. Minus TI, can't talk and write at the same time apparently. Okay, and okay, we got our VI delta T, which is now okay. What could I do with VF minus VI? Well, pause and think about it if you don't see it. VF minus VI, what is that? That's our change in velocity. That's our delta V, and what's delta V? Well, right there, delta V or VF minus VI, which is equal to A delta T. Okay? Now, just to help us out, and I should have factored this in this step, but factor this, and of course you see we've got a delta T here. Okay. Well, we've got a multiple of A here, we've got a multiple of A here. That should somehow be helpful. Okay. Well, I'm going to write this. And again, I'm writing extra step. Didn't need to, but I waited too long to factor. But other than taking a little extra time, that doesn't hurt anything. So we got VI delta T here, minus, I'll write A delta T as A delta T times TI. And now I can factor out my A and combine this with this. Okay, I've got an A times 1/2 delta T times TF plus TI plus VI delta T. I don't want that there. Let's try to keep it at least halfway clean. I want to include my A delta T times TI. Okay, so that's going to be minus TI delta T plus VI delta T. Now, make sure we understand where this is from, and we can verify it. A times negative TI delta T gives us this, right? So if we put this next to this, factor out the A, this is what we'll have. Okay? So this is then A times what? I'm going to write this as delta T times TF plus TI over 2 minus TI plus VI delta T. And that's what? A times delta T times, well, go to a common denominator. I'm going to have TF plus TI over 2 minus 2TI over 2. So I'm going to have TF plus TI minus 2TI over 2. And I'll leave it to you to reconcile that. That's going to be TF minus TI over 2 plus VI delta T. And that equals what? Well, TF minus TI is just delta T, isn't it? So we got a delta T here and a delta T here, so we got a delta T squared. We've got a 2 in the denominator, so that's going to give us our 1/2. And this term is going to be 1/2 A times delta T squared plus VI delta T. Now that's mostly just an exercise in algebra, but it's a complete justification for this formula, okay? And this formula is just a rearrangement of this. So we've got this, a little check mark there, and we've got this. Okay. Now, if we have this and this, we can eliminate delta T between these two equations, and we get this equation. And we can eliminate VF between these two equations, and we get this equation. Just simple algebra. So I'm not going to go through the details of that. It's very simple. I'll just point to it. Let's solve this one for delta T. Well, we solve it, we get 2 times delta X over VI plus VF. And plug that in for delta T here and rearrange it, and eventually we're going to get this. We don't need to get this. And what I just said is probably wrong. We're eliminating delta T between here and here. Sorry. Solve this one for delta T, plug into this one, and we get this. Okay? Plug in our expression here for VF into this equation, and we're going to get this equation. And it's very straightforward. So I'll probably do that since I messed all this up. The algebra is much simpler. This is a lot more involved than I anticipated it would be, but I never had the need to do this. I just decided to do it this time since we've developed everything from calculus. Okay, so anyhow, we've got this, we've got these equations, and you can solve to get these equations from these two as an exercise.